Californians don't understand Idaho. Idahoans don't understand Californians.
Yeah.
This is a perfect example. And I would like to expose myself a little bit and tell you about an experience I had in my original podcast that was called The Engine of Matt Todd. And I'm not telling anybody to go listen to it. It was not great. It's audio only. And I did a whole lot of like little 10-minute ridiculous like thought episodes and stuff on like, do you like ketchup? Right? Like they're ridiculous. But I also cut my teeth.
Note to self.
Note to self. I also really cut my teeth on interviewing people and like understanding that people were coming in ready to fight. And this was like in the heat of the pandemic and it was a real problem. And I was trying to sit in the middle and understand. And there was this gigantic chasm in my community between parents and children who wanted to open up schools and the teachers union, whose president said, I will not support opening up schools until there are 0 cases of COVID.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can imagine, like there were kids committing suicide. Like there was this, they were ready to kill each other. Okay. So I have I convinced finally the president of the teachers union. I'm like, I'm not trying to fight with you. Like, please just come in and talk to me. And she was like, okay, fine. Like I trust you. And I got the superintendent, like eventually people realized like, okay, Matt's not out to get us. So she comes in and throughout this conversation, which lasted about an hour and a half, at about an hour and 15 minutes, she was talking about this teacher union strike that they had recently had, how they got it resolved, all of these different things. And she kept saying that the school board was lying about the revenue that they had. And I was like, how do you mean? Like, I don't know anything about it. She's like, they had line items that they weren't telling us. I was like, what's a line item? Like literally, at the time, I didn't know. I'm an idiot. I was then, a little less now, but still. And she eventually says they were saving $1 million a year off the books. And I was like, what was the $1 million going for? And she was like, they were just storing it up like a bank. I was like, what were they banking it for? Books. So what the teachers union was criticizing the Board of Education was doing is the Board of Education was engaging in refresh, which is, look, if we have to buy $5 million worth of textbooks, we can't take a $5 million hit in just a random year. So what we do is over a 5-year period, we stash away, not stash, but just save up $1 million. So that $1 million was getting banked for the $5 million purchase called refresh, which is very, very common. And her criticism was the district is not a bank. It shouldn't be saving money. That money deserved to go to the teachers, and she won it for the teachers in a one-time payment to them and just pillaged the savings account for book refresh. Have to front load the savings, say 5, 6, 7 years to make sure we have this cache of money.
Exactly.
And so what you're saying is there was money going into that piggy bank, let's say for books, Fund 17. There was money going into that book piggy bank, and they didn't count that as the discretionary funds they could pay people because they said, hey, this is money that we're going to need in, say, like a year or in 2 years to purchase these books. And you guys you and the teachers union felt that's money that should be counted on the budget that we could take into account when we're figuring out our raises.
Right.
Now, I am not telling you that that is anything that the teachers unions in the state of Idaho are doing. Yeah. But when you have people moving here who have had experiences like that, you have to understand, not you
There's
particularly.
There's a California trauma.
There's a trauma that people here may not understand.
Yeah.
And the thought process behind why would anybody support this? Why would constituents like this or whatever? You have to come back to like, okay, what have people from that state gone through that would drive them to think this is a good idea? Like, I'm not a bad person for knowing that the teachers union pillaged the book fund in my district. And by the way, it's just a fact. Like, but that leads me to have a sentiment where it's like, okay, I guess teachers unions are capable of pillaging book funds. Like, that's crazy. I think one of the great challenges is not just educating Californians about what Idaho is, but Idahoans understanding what Californians have gone through, and then meeting each other where it's like, hey, maybe our teachers unions aren't doing that. And I'm not saying they are, they aren't. Maybe they're not. But I have not seen teachers unions or educators act in this state the way I saw them act in other states.